This is a national nc-173 receiver obtained at a swap meet and is a restoration project. We'll show more of why it needs to be restored in a minute or two. The nc-173 was manufactured starting in about 1947 for about 5 years. And one of the things that it's famous for is that it was carried on the raft Kon-tiki by Thor Heyerdahl. It survived a pretty bad storm in the southern Pacific where it was completely inundated with water, had to be completely dried out, and yet continued to work. So National Radio used it in advertisements in the late 40s and early 50s for that reason. We'll take a look inside here and see what it looks like. As you can see, one of the reasons why it's a great restoration project is cosmetically, it's very, very close to mint condition. It is in beautiful condition. Let's take a look at the top here. And again, you can see inside, at least on the top, that it's in great shape. Everything is there, all the parts are there. There haven't been any modifications made to the receiver, so it's a great candidate for restoration. Unfortunately, it does need restoration. When you open up the bottom and you take a look at it, the parts in here, of course, are 60 years old, or maybe even more than that, and those parts have needed probably replacement for many years. You can see here capacitors are literally melted, and this is pretty typical of older equipment. These are paper capacitors, and even if they didn't appear to be in bad shape, chances are really good that the internals would not be working. Also, the resistors probably all need to be replaced. Fortunately, there's lots of room to work in here. There's nothing pushed closely together as there would be in newer equipment. It's pretty easy to work on, and so we'll be using this as a restoration project. Amazingly enough, I replaced the line cord on the nc-173 and brought it up very slowly with a variac, put a 3-prong line cord on it, and with those capacitors, I figured it wouldn't work at all, or at least that it would have a lot of AC hum. But amazingly enough, it works pretty well. Let me turn up the volume. It's just using a little piece of wire here on AM. So, turn it down. It is at least doing that. And so we'll put it on a real antenna and see whether it'll receive anything on the short waves. And then, of course, still need to go in there and replace all those capacitors and probably some of the resistors. But at least it's working of sorts. Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but an interesting thing about this receiver is that it also has the amateur 6-meter band. So that's kind of neat. Working with my Viking Ranger 2, it means I will be able to do 6-meter AM. Well, not only does it work on shortwave, but the frequency is amazingly accurate. As I hope you'll be able to see, the band spread dial is on set, so I'm not sure how clear that is. And the main tuning dial is on 15 megahertz, or using the words for this particular receiver, and this time it would have been megacycles, but in any case, it's right on the money for WWD. Absolutely. Okay, amazing. I'm in my first QSO with the 173. Receiver's working super on 40 meters, and using the Ranger here for a transmitter, and it's working absolutely perfectly. I'm really enjoying it.